Hey guys, it is Kiki. It is the 100 Days of Making Comic Challenge. This challenge was created by Kevin Cross here on YouTube, linked to his channel in the description, as well as the Facebook group for the challenge called The 100s. The challenge is essentially that for 100 days straight, consecutively, every day, you work a minimum of 30 minutes on your personal comic projects and you make a social media post on what you worked that one day, keeping you honest and everything. Originally, you had to do a YouTube video, but people have done Instagram posts, blog posts, and as long as it's something online where people can see it and see your work and, again, keeping you honest. So yeah, this is my day 19 of my second go at this. I'm really proud of myself that I'm keeping with it, and I'm actually getting excited because I'm getting to the point where I'm almost ready to start actually drawing the strips, and this is the closest I've got to actually producing in a long time. Essentially, I worked on two things today. As you can see here, I'm sketching, specifically my character, myself, for the comic, and something I noticed yesterday when I was sketching is that when I turn where I'm facing to my left, instead of I always point everybody's faces to the right. If you've noticed, but when I do it the opposite direction, it was awkward for me, and I don't want that. And so I thought I would do a few basic facial expressions, kind of working through that. I'm not sure if I'm happy with them, especially the anger one that I ended up doing. If you're not showing on the screen yet, it will. But I also wanted to try to make sure to, draw my face from the opposite direction as well and get more comfortable with it. Yeah. I also wanted to play around with some coloring things. There's a lot of things that I used to do. They used to be like what I did on everything. Like I kind of talked about that, how I forgot that I did like a rosiness to the face. And I did it a couple different ways. So I'm trying do different techniques here. This paper's kind of crappy, so it doesn't quite come out the way I want it to, but it's just kind of playing around and also getting myself a lot more used to drawing these characters because I don't want it to be awkward or stiff and for it to come out easier. And so I probably for the next few videos, I will be doing this with all the characters just to kind of get myself more used to drawing them. Anyway, the other thing I worked on was, I don't know if you've ever heard of checking the silhouettes of your characters. Essentially, the thought is to take each of your characters that are going to be in your comic and completely black them out where they're just a silhouette and see if you could tell the difference between the characters to make sure you have enough diversity and it's not the same character all the time. And so here is, I did it on my phone, so I didn't actually record it, but this is all my characters, including the cats, all silhouetted out. I did it on my phone, and I think I did a good job. You can really tell the difference between each character. Even the character at the far left and the far right, that is, the far left is myself, and the far right is my sister, who we get mistaken for each other all the time. That's the joke, actually, and I purposely designed her to look just like me, but have different hair. But even that, you can tell the difference between us and the silhouettes. So I think I did a pretty good job. I'm happy with that. Yeah, so the rest of this video is just going to be me sketching, but I kind of wanted to talk about something. I think I'm going to try for the rest of my thing to have something to talk about, like not just talking about what I did, because it's kind of boring. But yeah, I wanted to talk about like diversity in storytelling, and this is actually a video I had made some years back. It's no longer viewable on here. It's actually privated because the video was not that well done, and I didn't express myself as well as I wanted to. And I think that I understand the topic a little better, and I also think I'm a little better of a speaker than I was then, so a little anyway, and so I think I can express myself a little better. Say better one more time. Anyway, so I kind of want to talk about that, and I know that there was one of the guys, I forget who it was, which one of y'all was, that's doing the challenge, was talking about this actually early on in his videos. And there's this kind of thought about how you have to shoehorn in, minorities, and that's not exactly how it works, or not how I see it. The way that I came about it was originally, what originally brought it up to me is because I've done multiple comics, and I had a comic that got somewhat popular, probably about 7 or 8 years ago. And there's this website called TV Tropes. And essentially it's talking about like the problematic tropes and things in TV shows and movies, but it also includes comics, and it has a whole thing about webcomics. It's a little different now, but back during this time period, there was a unfortunate circumstances or something like that, that had a list of things where there was problems, and my comic got listed on there. And essentially, the comic was a retelling of the biblical story of Adam and Eve, but it had stories from other cultures kind of mixed in as well. And there was a thing of talking about. There was actually a subheading of black but not too black, and that's where it was listed because my main character was a person of color. She wasn't technically supposed to be black, but most people assumed she was. I actually wanted her to be more like Indian, but my art wasn't that good enough at that point to actually be able to present that. Anyway, she was really dark skinned and she had really pale hair. And that was the thing they were talking about, is like she had this really pale hair. And then I got to looking at, and I realized she was the only non-white person, the only POC character I have ever had in any of my stories at that point. And it really like gave me pause. And I realized that, and this is something I kind of touched on previously, is that when I was creating characters, my default was white. Not only white, but straight. Like I never had anything else in there. And I understand that that's because, I think partially it is because I am white. And so that's what I know. But it's also something that is very pervasive in entertainment, has been for a long time, that the default is white. And that narrative is really changing, especially here in the 2000s, but it's still pretty pervasive, unfortunately. And since that's something that was fed to me from infancy, and because I am a white person, I defaulted to that. And it wasn't a situation of, I didn't want to just be like, I'm just going to randomly shove this character, change them to be black or Native American or whatever the case may be. I had to change my thought on it because I wanted the diversity in my stories to reflect reality. Because when you're talking real people, even though people of color are a minority, they're still around. You're going to run across people of different races and ethnicities and sexual orientations and gender identities and all this stuff. And it's not even a situation of, and I know some people may see it as, oh, well, you want to shove, gender identity. And it's not even a situation of, I want to make this normalized. That's reality. There are people, whether or not you agree with gender identity and all that stuff, there are people who identify that way. And so that reflects reality. And I wanted to kind of change my thinking to reflect that. And so I tried really hard that when I was creating characters to not just automatically be, this is a white person. And I read a lot of things, I studied a lot of things this was probably about 5 or 6 years ago, to try to kind of help myself with changing that mentality. And it's still something I struggle with, but it's not as hard as it was. And it has become much easier to have minorities be in my stories. And now, unfortunately, Frigadoodles is not the best example, but that is actually based off real people. I mean, I'm white. It's mostly me and my brother. We're white. So, I mean, that's what's going to be. My closest friends are white. Now, I do have friends that are people of color, but if I have stories that are involved them, then they'll be in it. But these are representative of real people, so a little different. It's in my fictional stories that I try to really look at it and mix it up and have a variety and a diversity in the story. So, yeah, that's kind of all. I've been rambling for 11 minutes now. Anyway, guys, I hope that makes sense. I would love to know your thoughts on it. Yeah, and I will see y'all tomorrow for day 20. Goodness, I will be 20% 20%. Yeah. I'll be 20% through this thing tomorrow. Huzzah. Later, guys.